Hi, welcome to or back to the podcast if you're new here. I'm your host, Shelby, and today we're going to be talking all about my experience in high school, if you're going into high school, if you're in high school, just my entire experience from friendships to why I transferred 3 times, almost 4 times, and then why I almost dropped out of college. So if you're new here, every episode we start off with my segments just to get you to know myself better. So my update is I recently just got back from Arizona. I flew in about an hour ago. It was so great. I haven't been to Arizona in probably 4 years. I met up with my really good friend that I did gymnastics with. We have known each other, I think, since I was 5, and then we did gymnastics all the way until I think I was 16 years old. And I haven't seen her in 4 years, so it was really great to catch up with her. Also, in Arizona, we went to great restaurants. I did not realize how good of food they have, and we stayed in the cutest little Airbnb. It was bohemian style. We were right next to ASU's campus because it's a lot cheaper in that area. And then we hung out in Scottsdale a lot, did the shopping, we went to the movies. Just a heads up, the movie Anyone But You that's out right now with Sydney Sweeney was so good. I honestly didn't have that high of expectations because, you know, recent rom-coms aren't very interesting anymore, but it was a perfect mix of comedy and then obviously a love story. But my like of this week is trying new coffee shops. Every time I travel, my favorite thing is to go to new coffee shops, and I went to 2. My order is always unsweetened matcha that is hot with whole milk, or if they have their homemade milk, so it could be almond milk, coconut milk, hemp milk, whatever they make. Oh yeah, so basically I called multiple coffee shops to make sure that they have unsweetened matcha because I hate sweetened matcha. It's also just not the best to start your day off in the morning with a ton of sugar. Why would I want my matcha already sweetened? I like that it tastes like grass. I don't understand how people don't want it to taste like grass. I guess if you just continuously drink something that's bitter every single day, you end up liking it. And then my dislike was I had the worst migraine yesterday. I am not one to take medication. I hate taking Advil, taking literally anything medication wise if you don't have to, but I didn't have my little peppermint to put on my scalp to make my headache go away, and I ate food and I drink water, so there was really no reason for me to have a migraine. I had to go stop at a convenience store and buy Advil, which is fine. My headache went away right away, and I was just in such a crappy mood, and so my poor boyfriend was, Shelby, get this under control. We gave you food, we gave you water, now you have medication. All right, let's just get into today's episode because that's what everybody is here for. So this is a very interesting story because I transferred to 3 different high schools. I went to a different school every single year I never actually told people the real reason to why I was transferring so much. I was always just sort of embarrassed. I didn't even probably tell my parents the real reasons why I was transferring so often. You know, I made up good enough excuses. And obviously there's more than one reason to go to one school versus the other. I made a pros and cons list. I made slideshows to tell my parents why I want to go this school versus the other one. And I'm going to explain that all to you because why not get to know me a little bit better? It's kind of, I want to stir the pot a little bit. So last week's episode, I talked about friendships. It really got me thinking because I work with one of my friends from elementary and middle school. I was like, what if we just go into the Instagram DMs with all of those people that we went to middle school with? Because if you listen to last week's episode, you know we were the it group, which is so embarrassing to say that we had an it group in middle school. But I really, really wanted to go into our Instagram group chat called Fam, DM in the group chat, be like, when's our reunion? Just to see who would respond. But, you know, she told me not to. She said nobody would respond and I would just look dumb. So I did it. You know, a part of me just loves a little drama. Nothing harmful, just a little bit, just for the fun, the shits and gigs. First off, I went to a private elementary and middle school, and it was pretty much a feeder school for another private Christian school in the nearby area. My sister and my older brother went to this school, so I was automatically supposed to go to this school. But I knew this school was, I think, 500 people. My sister could tell you every single person's name at that school. Why would I want to go to a school like that? I don't know. I knew for me, it just wasn't going to be the school for me. And I had such high expectations for high school. I remember texting one of my best friends all of middle school on my little flip phone being like, I can't wait till we're 16. I can't wait till we drive. I can't wait to be in high school. Social media, not even social media because I didn't really have social media, but the movie movies and the TV industry really makes high school seem like this big thing that's going to be the best time of your life, and everybody talks about high school and dances and boys and sports. I just thought high school is going to be the best time of my life. But then right when I got to high school, I just couldn't wait to go to college. It's definitely one of those moments where you always can't wait to be in the next stage of your life, and I wish I enjoyed it just a tiny bit more. I ended up going to this first small private school. It was 500 kids. Maybe that's big for your school, but if you think about it, half of those kids were actually foreign exchange. They weren't exchange students because we didn't swap, but they were, I don't know what the right term is, but basically a lot of them were from Asia, because that's how the school got the majority of their funding, because they paid more to be at that school than everybody else. I went to school with about 250 people, because all of the foreign exchange students would be in classes together, and they wouldn't normally be in all of the rest of the kids' classes. I mean, they would, but not, they would have like some English classes for second language learners. Also, they would all hang out together. They wouldn't really mingle with everybody else. This school was so tiny. And at this time, I was still a competitive gymnast, which really what that meant was that school was just for school. I wasn't there really. I made friends, and I had friends that were there since elementary school, but I wasn't there to high school to make a bunch of friends. I wasn't going to high school to join a sport and go to college with it. I pretty much was going to high school just for the academics and like checking that box off, because I would go to school, then go gymnastics. That was just basically my life. I was a big fish in a small pond because the school was so small. I had my group of friends that I was friends with basically since elementary school. I honestly had the best time you could think of my freshman year. You would think if I transferred from this school that I would actually hate it, but really I loved it. I loved my professor or my teachers. I was in honors classes. I had classes with all my best friends. We did a bunch of after school activities. I went to all the dances. I went to multiple proms. It wasn't like I didn't have friends. I quit gymnastics my freshman year of high school because I woke up one day and I couldn't move my fingers. I basically had nerve damage in my back. I'm laying in bed and I literally couldn't move my pinky finger because I started having back pain since 4th grade. I quit gymnastics. Next day, I did one more competition because I just wanted to get that excitement out of my system. I think that's where high school became way more important for me, because I wasn't just going to check that box off. I was actually going to high school now for my social life and for my friends and for all the activities. And I think at that point in my life, it was very important to me. I felt so left out because my friends would all hang out and they wouldn't invite me somewhere because they knew I had practice. Gymnastics was 25 hours of my life, or a week. I really couldn't hang out with people after school. I really didn't have time on Saturday mornings to hang out, etc., or competitions on the weekends. I think another part of me quitting gymnastics was I wanted that social aspect with all my friends who would always hang out together, and I wasn't officially uninvited, but they just wouldn't necessarily send that invite because they knew I was already busy. Another reason about this school was I already knew French. French was technically my first language. I don't really know it anymore. I tested into French 2 going into this French class, and there's only one teacher. I'm pretty sure there's only one teacher for pretty much every subject because it was such a small school. And my sister went in, I think, freshman year to French 4. It was a different professor or teacher, and the teacher would always say that everybody's heads combined were smarter than him and the teacher and everybody in there, because French was her first language too. So we just knew it like a first speaker, not someone learning it. So I went in and it didn't work with my schedule because the school was so small. There was only literally one class and it had to fit within your schedule. And if it didn't, that sucks. I think me being put into that French class, the level 1, and being smarter in the French language than majority of the class really pissed me off. There was nothing I could do about it. I was also in the class with my best friend. So I cared, but I also didn't care. I just knew the French teacher didn't like me because I didn't need her help for French 1. A part of me was like, I am an extremist. Me not liking the teacher and her making my life a literal hell. Not hell, but I'm just very stubborn. I'm extremist, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't like you, so I'm going to transfer. Or I don't like you, so I'm going to go move to Canada with my family for a year, come back and test out of French 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I literally went to my high school advisor, asked about their foreign exchange program and how it would work if I went to Canada for a year of my sophomore year of high school, did my academics there. And pretty much I could have, because technically I wasn't doing gymnastics anymore. I was just going there to learn French. And if I was going to be placed in a new school where they only spoke French and my family there would only speak to me French, I would obviously learn the language. That's the best way to learn any language. The second option was to just transfer schools in general. Now, sports was important to me and I needed to find a new sport because I wasn't doing gymnastics. I decided on track. Don't know why I picked track. I should have done cheerleading or something, but I picked track because I have always been told I was fast, which really I wasn't even that fast. I guess I was fast for that school. So small private school, so means small private, you compete against other small private schools. And I did well. I did the 100 sprint, I did the 200 sprint, I did the 4x1, I did high jump, and I did long jump. And the relay ones, I mainly switched in and out for the competitions. I actually ended up being pretty good at the jumps. I excelled pretty quickly. I think I went to CIF the first 2 years. The thing was, our coach in high school for the track team was the basketball coach. We didn't have no professional coach coaching us. What's funny is I actually found a coach that was really good, and I think I just found him from mutual people, and seeing him at a competition, he came up to me. I knew that this school was too small for me. I couldn't go to college for a sport off of this little tiny private school. I needed something bigger and better, and I knew that I would hate this small private school by the time I graduated. And that was the issue, was I was totally fine at this school with 400 kids. By the time of senior year, I knew 3 years later I would be scratching my eyes out to get out of there. And also just the pool of people that were there, I knew I just needed to meet more people, which is totally fine. Being the first kid in my family to not go to a private school, one girl I knew from gymnastics went to a school called LaSalle, and it's in Orange County. It's a huge public school, about 4,000 people. I only knew her. The only person I ever known was her. And so I look it up, and it's D1 for high school track team. And I was doing track. So I made up a PowerPoint for my parents. Also, I was like, okay, here are the pros of going to this public school. 1, it's free. It's public school. 2, they have a D1 track team, and it's a nice field. So I was currently busing from this small private school all the way into the nearby public high school. We were on a dirt track. And also, I hated the dress code at this private school. It was like another reason why I wanted to leave. The rules of private school didn't fit with me. I was very, not rebellious, but stubborn. Hated when people told me what to do. So I created this PowerPoint. It was about the same distance. I think the academics were number 1 in the nation or something. There was a lot of positives for me to go to this public school. My parents, it's funny because they are religious. How do I say this? They're religious, so they want me to go to a private school because they thought public school is really bad and I would get into all these issues, which we'll get into. And I mean, they're not totally false, but also I went to private school and surrounded myself with really good people my whole life. And this was an opportunity for me to grow into myself and meet other people and learn about the real world. Because if you're only surrounded by the people you're like, if you're only surrounded in this small bubble, how are you ever supposed to actually excel and grow as a human? You can't just surround yourself by people that all think the same as you. It's not going to work. So I go to LaSalle. I convinced my parents to let me go there. I was actually shocked. I came from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a big pond. This was my first time experiencing not having friends. And I had my friends from previous schools and everything, but this was the first time going into school where I knew one person. What was also hard was I'm just that person that sees a type of person or friend group and thinks I belong with them and wants to belong with that friend group. So I had my eye on a certain group of people I want to be friends with. I guess, is that considered social climbing? I don't know. I actually loved this school for a minute. I was in a French class. Oh, also thing about the first private school was I was also placed in the wrong math class. So I took the test for, I think, just algebra, but I started doing algebra 7th or 8th grade because I went to private school. So we were a year or two ahead of just the public system, but I took the wrong test and they placed me in the wrong class. So my freshman year of high school, I pretty much aced every single test, didn't have to actually pay attention in class. We had iPads, so I just watched Netflix in class, and the teacher hated me and my friend at the time, but we were getting A's, so he couldn't hate us that much. And I would also always ditch school. I started ditching school when I was in freshman year because it was just classes I didn't need to be in. I think that algebra class was my last period of the day, so my mom would just sign me out. That's just a side note. Going into public school, because I originally was put in the wrong French class and the wrong math class, it just continued. I didn't get to then skip the grades when I went in. It just kept going. And also I stopped doing honors classes. No, I did honors classes my sophomore year. So my French class was, I think, iconic. I became really good friends with my table group. I had a crush on one of the guys in my table group, and he was a part of the friend group I wanted to be a part of. And he actually started to introduce me to all his friends at the football games as the girl from Canada, because I knew French and I spoke it really well. And then I had to go and tell everybody I'm not from Canada. I almost moved there this year, but I am not. I was born here in LA. And I also used a fake address to go to this public school because it wasn't in my district. And so I had to lie to everyone that I was from their neighborhood. Meanwhile, I was commuting 20 minutes. Basically, I just didn't want to get kicked out by the district or have someone not like me and then go and tell the district that, oh, she doesn't actually live here. My family went through all the hoops to get me into the school. So I loved my French class, became friends with everyone, had a crush on literally probably the first guy I met in high school. I was friends with the girl that I already knew going in there. Oh, and then I was also on the track team. And so I came into the track team and I met another girl from the friend group I really wanted to be friends with, and we hit it off pretty easily. So this was also the first time in my life where I started to experience having different friends in different friend groups and not being kind of the glue of a friend group or not just having one friend group. I started to have a friend group on the track team, then my French friend group, and then having a friend. I wasn't a part of one friend group. I was a little bit a part of everybody's. It just sort of feels, it's one nice because you have a variety of people to hang out with and you're a part of a lot of groups and you're not tied down. But then another part of you doesn't feel ever like you're in the main friend group. You're always just that extended friend that people know. And then it's also a little awkward when I want to maybe host or have a birthday party and not everybody knows each other. And this is when it all starts. I had a culture shock. Before going to the school, I had kissed one boy in my life. I had never gotten drunk. I have never smoked or vaped. I was honestly pretty innocent. And when I started liking the guy in my French class, his girl best friend at the time started spreading rumors about me to their friend group who I wanted to be friends with, saying that I was a whore and a slut. And I was like, does she know I've only kissed one guy in my whole life? And I'm 15, 16 years old. Also, I was just getting my foot in the door. I just got to this high school. So I did not appreciate her cattiness because I knew she liked her guy best friend, but would never say anything. I liked him. And he liked me back at the time. I liked this guy for basically the whole year. Or maybe not the whole year. Yeah, I think the whole year. We took that French class the whole year. Or maybe it was a semester. We went on a few dates. I am just one of those people that goes out of my way so much when it comes to guys. And I was so young then. So my dad would go surfing and I'd have my dad drop me off on the way to his house. And I would wait 2 hours outside his house and just be friends. Literally, okay, this is crazy. So I used to get babysat by this family and they owned a Euro shop in Orange County along the beach area. The guy literally lived next door to where the people that used to babysit me owned the store, but they didn't own it anymore. Now it was maybe, I don't know, a hamburger place or something. So I go into the hamburger place and I needed to use the restroom so bad. So I'm like, hey, can I use your restroom? They're like, we don't have one. I'm like, I know you have one right there. I used to get babysat in this shop. And I told them about the people and everything. And they were so nice to me. And I'm pretty sure they gave me free food and let me use the restroom. There was a tattoo parlor right next door. I looked so homeless because it was probably either early in the morning or sunset time. And I would be sitting out this tattoo parlor. I was literally waiting for a guy. So I looked homeless. Did I tell my dad that I was hanging out with a boy? No. Did this boy think I was obsessed with him? Probably. And then we would go surf. He would teach me how to surf. We would just hang out at the beach, la-di-da. Then winter formal came around. I really wanted him to ask me. And I was in an English class with all his friends. And I was just that person that was trying to get into the friend group, but just sitting kind of on the back end of it, waiting to get invited. And one of them was like, oh, I'm gonna go with blah blah blah, his name. And then they look at me because they know that we had been hanging out. I was just red in the face and they're like, oh, and I was just like, okay, obviously they know something I don't know. Then he ends things with me a week later. I was so confused. I really liked him. Basically he was like, I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm like, okay, fair. Then had a girlfriend a week later. Going to public school for the first time was just a culture shock of boys, alcohol, drugs, parties, all of that. Basically everything my parents were afraid of me doing, and I did. So in French class, they would actually vape in the class. I guess so addicted, they would need to cover it with their hoodie and then smoke in the class, which is so inappropriate. And if you really think about it, we were so young. We were 15 years old, vaping in class. Is it really that important? know. But I think we just wanted to be rebellious. I didn't partake. I think one day we were at the beach with all these people and I really wanted to seem cool. And they all knew me as not like a prude, but they just knew me as a girl who's only kissed a boy, who's never gone drunk, who's never vaped before. So I wanted to vape so everyone would like me and think that I can do this stuff. So I vaped, I coughed, whatever. Then I think someone gave me a vape and I used it, but then I noticed that my skin was breaking out like crazy and I cared about my skin more than my lungs. So I stopped vaping immediately. I think I vaped maybe 2 months and my skin cleared out perfectly. So I got into vaping from this public school. And then I think it was the last day of our sophomore year. So the whole school, we get a half day on the last day of school. We all go to the local beach. All the way from where the water hits the sand to where the cars are parked are covered in towels and people. Probably thousands of kids that go to the school all went to the beach that day. And we're there from 12 p.m. all the way till 9 at night. And this is when I did some things that I probably started too young. I started drinking. It's my first time getting drunk and smoking weed at the same time. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here. And I did it at the same time. Oh wait, that wasn't the first time I drank though. Back. I went to parties. I got invited to parties. I started drinking. I think going to public school, kids who go to public school, I think get into things a lot earlier. Going to private school, I was very innocent, didn't do any of those things. I also wasn't a extremely competitive athlete anymore, so there was nothing keeping me from going to these parties. That was the first time I smoked was at that party, or it was a beach party on the last day. And at that point, I was like halfway in with the friend group that I wanted to be friends with. I don't really know the real reason why I was transferring from this school. I think I was just seeing myself go down a pretty negative path. I got very religious in my sophomore year of high school. I started going to church 4 times a week. I started to realize that the people I was hanging out with were not like-minded as me. And I wanted to start hanging out with people who also were religious at the time. I basically made another PowerPoint for my parents saying that I need to go back to private school, that the finances were fine, my aunt was going to finance it, but that I wanted to make friends who were also religious, who didn't party, who went to church, all that sort of thing. I think this would be my second time transferring, my third high school. So my junior year, I decide that I'm going back to a private school, but I didn't want to go back to the private school I started with. I wanted to go to a new private school. I told them I cannot go back to the first private school I was in because that school was so small. It was not a decision. So I decided to go to a popular private school in Orange County too. And I knew people that went from my middle school to this high school. So it wasn't crazy and it was the same distance as the other private school. They had better sports. So they were, I think, considered D1 of that school district or something. Not quite sure. It was about, I think, 1,000 kids. So it was less than 4,000, but more than 500. Yeah, so a lot of people, it was sort of another feeder school that I originally went for middle school. And they had a good track team. They had really good academics. It wasn't far. They did have a dress code. We'll get into that. So I transferred to this bigger school so I could be around more like-minded people. It was a culture shock because I grew up not wealthy. I grew up in private school my entire life. I was surrounded by a lot of really wealthy people. But my middle school was not super, it wasn't in your face wealthy. But then I went to, first the public school I went to sophomore year of high school was people were driving G-Wagons and BMWs and Mercedes. So that was more in your face and it was in a very, very nice part of Orange County. But then I went to a private school in Orange County. It was the same thing. This guy wanted a girl to go on a date with him, so he bought a Tesla. Okay, I guess that's how you get a girl to go on a date with you. You buy a Tesla when Teslas first came out. Actually, during COVID, a lot of the girls were making TikToks about how wealthy they were and all the designer stuff they have and all the foreign cars they have. So me going into the school, driving my parents' truck and not having a car yet and I was 16, or being able to buy the newest item was definitely difficult. This school had the nicest cafeteria you could think of. They had In-N-Out, they had Chick-fil-A, we had Press, we had a waffle maker, but I could afford it if I wanted to, but I knew that wasn't a great financial decision. And I was probably the only one in my entire friend group that had a job, that went to work about 3-4 times a week on top of school and academics. So going back to this private school, I had a year of not doing Bible classes, and then I also had a year of no dress code. So going back to a school where there was rules did not really sit well with my, I don't want to say I had a lack of discipline, but I didn't like when people told me what to do. To top it off, I was on surf team. So fun. Loved the surf team. I think that was my favorite part of the entire school. And I actually met a girl that was really sweet on the first day of transferring to the school. I met someone immediately. So surf team was, I think, started at 5 or 6 a.m. Then we didn't have our first period. And then I was able to organize my schedule so I didn't really have to go until after lunch, which was great and all, but not great if you're trying to meet people. So the first semester, I would go to school from I think noon till 3 or 4. I was rarely at school, but pretty much I couldn't make my schedule in the morning because I was also on the track team. So I would go to surf for the first hour. Then I went all the way back to LA, showered, ate, then went to school in Orange County, and then had maybe 2 or 3 classes. After that, I had track, and then I went home or I went to work. Very, very busy. Usually they had lecture or Bible, I don't really know, some chapel every single day. And I would miss that because it was before lunch and I came at lunch or after lunch. And what was so stupid was they didn't have enough parking for the juniors and seniors. So only the seniors were allowed to park on campus. We had to park at the local Sears parking lot, and then they had a bus for us that would drive us to the campus. Because I came at a very odd time, I had to walk a literal mile to get to school. You know, my very not following the rules personality, I parked in the senior parking lot because I was not walking a mile to go to school. And I obviously got in trouble multiple times. Ended up having to possibly go to Saturday school, but I was not wanting to go to Saturday school. And then I also got in trouble for being dress coded. So there was a lot of, rules issues that I was dealing with. So I was hanging out with this group of girls. These group of girls, one I met on the first day of school, and then we sort of just slowly met the other ones, and they were so welcoming at first, or at least like the majority of them. They invited us to, there was a back to school or homecoming dance. I got invited to hang out with them, and then we were building our own skirts. This is where I started to feel excluded from the friend group. They were driving to somebody's grandma's house so that they could fix their skirt, and they were supposed to invite me too because I also was supposed to build a skirt, and they literally left me. And then the other girls are like, oh my God, they left you. Like, I'll tell them to come back. Or we would go to football games. When you're walking on a sidewalk, it's 2 people. It's like 3 people, but only 2 people are walking on the sidewalk, and then 1 gets excluded. That was the vibe of the football games. Every time we were at a football game, I think there was maybe 5 of us. There'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But one of the girls would cut me off. So I was standing outside of the conversation, and I couldn't talk with everybody. That's just plain mean. She would leave me when we'd go places. I don't know. I just felt unwelcomed, or parties I wouldn't be invited to, you name it. I just wasn't included. I loved the academics. I loved the sports. I was doing pretty good. And the only thing I was really lacking was that girlfriend group who I wanted to be a part of. And technically I was, just one girl didn't like me and didn't want me a part of the friend group. And I still to this day don't know why. Maybe because she wanted to be closer with the girl I was friends with. I don't really know. At the same time of going to this private school, I started to become super close with the friend group I wanted to be friends with my sophomore year at the public school. I started to become really close friends with them. I was still going to their parties. I was still invited to their dances. And so they started telling me, like, Shelby, transfer back. Why did you transfer? Like, come back. Also, my track coach at the time, who I was doing private lessons with, which are very expensive, actually started coaching at my old high school. So I was like, okay, if I go to this high school, if I transfer again, not only will my classes be easier, but I won't have to do extra track practice because he'll just be my regular high school coach. Also, the coach at the private school I was currently going to wanted me to do a different style of jumping than the one I was always been doing, and it really stressed me out. I was just like, okay, I can transfer to another school and have my exact coach I want and not have to struggle with this. I really loved the surf team though, so that was something I was gonna have to leave. I just was going through a time where I hated school. I think the last week of the semester, they had a fully online program and then a half and half online program. I actually changed my entire schedule so that I only went to school, I think 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and then the rest was online. So I went out of my way to do this. Tuition was cheaper. I wouldn't have to go to school as much, and I just wasn't school oriented anymore, and this was my junior year. Finally decided like I'm fed up with this. I think actually over break, I really liked this one guy. I always thought he was cute my junior year. He invited me to go to, I think, the winter formal. He invited me to go to winter formal, but before that we had like hung out, and he basically told me like, you should transfer back, and a bunch of other people were telling me to transfer back. But because I liked him, I was just like, okay, that's like the final straw. This friend group wants me to be a part of their friend group. I can go to school with them, yada yada yada. There were so many pluses to transferring back. Somehow I convinced my parents to let me transfer for a third time, and I literally didn't even stay at this private school, a second private school, for a full year. I was only there for a semester. Honestly, would I let my kid do this? No. I go back to the public school halfway through the year, and I also went to a formal with that kid, and he ditched me the entire night. He literally, after photos, did not talk to me once. And I just was, what the hell? I liked you. Why did you invite me here? Why did I transfer schools? This sucks. But I was really close with some people then. And then I become super close with two people who were my bestest friends. And this kind of starts what I talked about last week of the friendship breakups. So I transfer back to La Salle. I transfer back. I am in the IT friend group now, or the IT friend group that I thought it was. I am now a part of the cool kids, the girl and guy group, and I loved it. I was having the best time of my life the last semester of my junior year. They were just a friend group that would hang out every week, that would have parties, that just were so fun. And they were the athletes. I think it was soccer players, baseball players, track athletes. So a little variety of everything. Soccer, I think I already said soccer. Maybe softball too. I pretty much made up a lie to the Olu girlfriend group, being like, something happened with my dad's job. Like, I have to leave. The school's too expensive. Like, literal BS. I just lied about it. I really just wanted to transfer because I wanted to be a part of a friend group who wanted me, not necessarily who just cut me out all the time. So I transfer back to La Salle, and I was the talk of the school. I wasn't necessarily popular when I first got there to that school, but because I had friends in one of each friend group instead of being in one friend group, a lot of people did know me. That sounds really cocky, but I knew a lot of people. So a lot of people were excited that I was coming back to the school. Honestly, like, everything was great. I still was ditching school literally all the time. I was doing really well at track. I was injured all the time, actually. The last semester of my junior year was perfect. Couldn't have asked for anything better. Going into senior year. First semester, I guess this is first semester of senior year because I didn't even get a second year. First semester is football season. And I started talking to my current boyfriend my junior year. Literally, let's just go into that story really quick. My junior year, I just transferred from Orange Lutheran back to La Salle, and I was bored one night, had Instagram, found him on probably the baseball team Instagram, clicked on his name, followed him, started talking to my current boyfriend my junior year. We were just friends. I never knew him at the school. I had a lot of his friends and teammates in my classes, so he knew of me from them, but we never had met. Moving in to senior year, still was talking to him. I think we had then gone on a date by then. We had been hanging out for a while. My best friend, I think, didn't like him. My best friend at the time, literally, I think just decided one day, I don't want to be friends with her. I don't like her anymore. So I think it started when we went to this party for somebody's birthday, I'm pretty sure. And I started to have my heart started hurting. And I actually have a heart condition called AFib. Basically, all four arteries of my heart, it just gets triggered by exercise or stress or whatever. And all four atriums of my heart will beat at the same exact time, making it beat really fast. And sometimes I pass out. Sometimes I have to go to the ER and have them give me a heart monitor. All this crazy stuff. And so I was like, okay, my heart's hurting. Like, I'm gonna leave the party. I get into my car. My heart starts to like calm down. And the guy I was talking to was like, hey, like, hang out. Come over, basically. Let's hang out. And so I drive to his house and hang out with him. And she looks at my location. You lied to me. Like, why would you go hang out with him? Why would you leave this party to go hang out with him? Like, that's so rude. I didn't lie to you. Like, my heart was actually hurting. It stopped hurting, and he invited me over, and I really liked him, so I went over. Literally, that created a downward spiral of my best friend at the time hating me and making the entire friend group hate me. It like happened slowly. The second scenario was we're at a football game, and it was right by my house. I texted in group chat. I was like, hey, are you guys coming? I'll drive there right now. And I think they just said yes. And then I got there and I'm like, okay, where are you guys at? It was at a college stadium, so it was huge. And they said, we're here, and sent me a photo of the sky. That's just plain rude. I go to the front and I stand by the entrance of the school or of the football stadium, and they walk right past me. As I was the first one there, they obviously saw me. They just walked right past me. They just were trying to be rude. So then I go in and find them. I think the first quarter, one of the girl, my best friend at the time, screams at me in front of everybody. I just literally freeze. I have the worst instincts and I do not do well with confrontation. She was like, you're such an effing bitch. You're such a liar, blah, 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 blah. I literally just left. I was just shocked by how she could talk to me like that in front of all these people. I was still hanging out with this friend group at lunch and stuff because I didn't want to be a loner and not hang out with anybody. I hung out with them at lunch until I realized somebody brought up, what photo do you like? And they sent it in a group chat. And then they look at me and realize, oh, Shelby didn't get that message because she's not in the friend group. My second best friend at the time was, oh, this is an old group chat from her birthday last year. No, it's not. You didn't just start texting in an year-old group chat just because. You did it because I'm not in the group chat. You created a new group chat because you don't want me in it. And so that was really my moment of, I'm not friends with these people anymore. They don't want to be my friend. And this was my first semester of senior year. And I also had classes with all of them, and my best friend at the time, I sat next to her in this class, and she literally moved seats. And so we also had a Catalina trip. I really, really didn't want to go, or my current boyfriend was like, no, it's gonna be fine, like, go, you need to go. And I go. They're like hanging out with me and talking to me. They're literally my roommates on this trip, and I had such bad anxiety going, and it was all fine. We're all hanging out. I find something out in the trip. It really pissed me off, and I realized they're not over it. They still don't want to be my friend. And so I go the rest of my senior year literally hating my life, eating lunch in my car, ditching school because I didn't want to be there. Did not know what happened. I didn't know what she said to the entire friend group for them to never be my friend again and never ask me what happened, never text me. I was literally completely exiled from this friend group, and I still have trauma from it today. I then was going to transfer a fourth time from LaSalle back to Orange Lutheran because I knew Orange Lutheran had a fully remote online school, and I was just fed up. I did not want to deal with girls anymore. I literally was so depressed. Then I was fully getting ready to transfer until COVID hit and we were all online, and what actually was the perfect timing ever. And since I went to a public school, they couldn't force us to do school. You can only increase your grades, and I already had straight A's, so I just stopped school in March. What's kind of worked out great was private school, since it had a fully online school as well as in person, they still had to do school. I basically saved myself doing school for a few months than everybody else who went to that private school. Fast forward to going to college. I went to Cal Poly SLO, which was one of the only schools that had freshman year dorms during COVID and actually had in-person classes for lab majors. I wasn't a lab major, but I still went to school. The first day of getting there or like hanging out, I run into my best friend from high school from track team. And she was like my second best friend. And I'm like, oh my God, hi. How's it going? Blah, blah. Backstory to this girl. It was her dream to go to Cal Poly. Like, she worked all of high school, took all the AP classes, did everything so she could get into this school because it's a big engineering school. And me, being a little bitch I am, applied to the school as a joke because I was like, oh, what if I can get in with I think I had a 3.8 average or 3.4 or something, and she has a 4.4 and she doesn't get in. So I was just like, as a joke, let me just apply. I know it's such a hard school to get in. I knew nothing about the school. I got in, she got in, so it wasn't a big deal. I decided to go to that school because it was the best school. I got in. Everyone was shocked I got into the school because I never went to school. I got good grades, but I never went to school. First week of school, I run into her. We hang out because I am just that person that always rekindles a friendship and forgives everybody. And we're sitting in her dorm, and I ask her, what did she say to make everyone in their friend group never talk to me again? And she was like, she told everyone that you were trying to hook up with her boyfriend. I think I started crying because I was already going out with my current boyfriend at the time. So why was I trying to hook up with her boyfriend, who was not my type, not interested in him, and was a complete lie? And I just was like, how could you guys not realize that wasn't true? But she was saying she was so convincing. She said she had screenshots and we've known her since kindergarten, so we just had to trust her. I'm like, okay, you can trust her, but why didn't anyone confirm with me? Like, you guys made my my life a living hell. You made me feel so shitty about myself. She felt so bad. We became friends. We literally were best friends again in high school or in college. And that was like the biggest mistake I've ever made, was don't bring in high school drama into college drama. And I did that, unfortunately. We created this entire friend group in college, very similar to the one I had in high school. And of course, we had another friendship breakup. For the second time, I had no idea what happened. I just was completely exiled from the friend group and wasn't invited anywhere. It was the same girl who did that to me in high school, or she wasn't the one who spread the rumor, but she was kind of the leader of the friend group, and did it to me again in college. And I still to this day don't know what happened with that one. And so then I was once again depressed, lonely, so confused what happened. And so I didn't rush my freshman year because I wanted to transfer, and I wanted to transfer to USC to be closer to my boyfriend and be in LA. I applied and I didn't get in, unfortunately. I didn't really have the grades to transfer. Honestly, I'm kind of glad I stuck it out. I moved dorms to be closer to everybody. Every single day, I just was so heartbroken and lonely because I heard them all hanging out next door and nobody would come say hi to me. No one told me why they weren't friends with me. And I just was going to LA every single week, and I would go for a week. And I don't know, when you feel so left out of a friend group, I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I was struggling so badly with my mental health, and I had nobody to ask for help. So I end up leaving spring of my senior year. Of my freshman year, halfway through the quarter, and I moved down to Orange County. I started working right away. Sophomore year, ended up making all new friends. Everything happens for a reason. One of the girls in the friend group, we're on good terms now. The rest, I literally have no idea what happened still to this day. But I think since high school and that senior year friendship breakup just kind of continually, extended this like trauma with friends and not trusting people I literally since then have not been a part of a friend group because I am just so traumatized by everything that's happened, and I'd rather have one friend from multiple friend groups because I can't handle it anymore. It just was too many people, too many personalities, and people who are like the head of the friend group or whatever, I don't even know. Didn't get into USC, so stayed in SLO and graduated from SLO. I think if I was a parent and my child was going through this, or if I were to basically redo high school again, this is what I would do. I would never have gone to the first private school. I think it was just a waste of my time, even though I had a great high school experience my freshman year. I think I would either have told myself to stick it out with the public school or stick it out with the second private school. And I would have built better friendships. I would have built a better connection with my teachers and my sports. I think I bounced around way too much. It wasn't worth it. I think I was just always looking for something better, and I never found better. I'm glad I didn't transfer in college. I think I would have just experienced high school all over again. Pretty much I would have just experienced it, so I'm glad I stuck it out. I did graduate early. Oh, another thing about my college experience my freshman year, I either told myself I was going to graduate early or I was going to drop out. My sophomore year of college, I was sitting doing my summer school, realized that my sister had 2 tech companies at my age, and I was working, I think I was a barista, doing summer school, hating my life. I was either going to move to Hawaii and drop out of school and figure my life out, or I was going to graduate early because it was a really good school and the degree did matter. So I decided to graduate early. I graduated a whole year early. I'm currently now post-grad working 2 jobs, living in the city I've always wanted to live in. I think if you're going through any sort of drama in high school or college, it's so important for you to kind of learn confrontation, learn how to deal with different personalities and different people, and you can't buy long-term friends. And long-term friends have gone through every sort of thing. I also believe that, one, if you're hating your school, you can try another school, but don't do that every single year like I did, because it doesn't get any better. I always found an issue at every single school I was at, and now I'm gonna go to like my senior or my high school reunion and be like, barely know these people. I think I just needed to be more grateful for the school I went to, and I wish my parents literally forced me to stay at a school and not give me the decision to transfer all the time. I'm glad I didn't do that in college. I'm glad I got denied from USC and I didn't apply to any other private school. I don't know, it all worked out for the best. You guys can always DM me if you have any questions about high school or college, because I think I had such an interesting experience where I wanted to, anytime there's conflict, conflict. I just wanted to get up and leave. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't have parents to actually guide me through that. I didn't have parents that were good with relationships and people, so I did exactly what they did. I just cut people off or ran from whatever happened. Okay, so I'm gonna start trying to post the episodes every Monday because that's what the poll I did on Instagram. Also stay updated with the Instagram. The Instagram is My Perspective Pod and the TikTok is Shelbright if you guys want to stay updated with the podcast. I try to post every day to give you guys snapshots of my life. Stay updated with the Instagram because I'm gonna start posting questions for you guys to ask because we're gonna start having interviews on the podcast for finances, for anything wellness. I'm gonna have functional doctors on, athletes on, and I want you guys to be able to ask away your questions. So for the rest of the night, I'm literally going to be editing this episode to try to get out as soon as possible because I know you guys want to listen on Mondays. I think that's pretty much it for now. I'm so glad to be back in California. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Also, I started to do lives on TikTok so you can get a sneak peek of the episode completely unedited. Very interesting. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.